one thing that I do have to mention is that thanks to a wonderful grant from the Hammond Foundation, we're able to provide every first Saturday of the month, we have a family day. And so children get in free with a paid adult admission. And on those particular days, we have a different program available. We have programs available throughout the month, but that's our big one where we like to see the kids come in and take advantage of that free admission.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Spotlight Houston, where we bring you the best of the people, places, and events in Houston. In this week's episode, we dive into Texas history with a conversation with David Avila Jr., director of the San Jacinto Monument in Battlefield. Please note, this episode has been edited for time. And now your host, Blanca Quesada.
Hi, and welcome to the show. The San Jacinto Monument and Battlefield is one of the most important, beautiful places to me because this is where Texas won its independence from Mexico and where it kind of became a state.
Yeah.
And so, but what's amazing to me is that we hear that it only took 18 minutes. So I think the history of this place is so very interesting. And because of its story and all the educational artifacts that are found in their exhibit, I've invited David Avila Jr. He is the director of museum operations at the San Jacinto Monument and Battlefield Association to tell us about this very important place. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Blanca. We appreciate you reaching out and giving us this opportunity to share our story.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for joining me because, like as I said, to me, this is a major place in the state of Texas.
It truly
And
is.
there's a lot of people that, you know, mm, maybe are new to, our city or our state and they don't know about it. But, it's there and it's beautiful. But before we actually get into the history of the monument and all that, would you be able to give us a little bit of the history of the battle that happened in the area?
Yes, definitely. So, as you mentioned, this was the major battle of the Texas Revolution. This was the last battle of the Revolution. This is where Texas won its independence. And throughout the entire military engagements, starting in October, the Battle of Gonzales, the first shots of the Texas Revolution, most of that time between October till April, the Texian forces were really being defeated. You had Goliad, and then, of course, the Alamo. Everyone knows about the Alamo. Everyone knows the history where Travis and his men, gave the ultimate sacrifice and pretty much bought Sam Houston and the rest of the Texian forces some time to continue to, as they were retreating towards the east, they were able to train and fortify the army. And so once they met here, the battle on April 21st, that was the decisive battle. There was a skirmish the day before on the 20th. Both armies knew that they were pretty much in close proximity here on site. So on the morning of April 21st, Santa Anna was expecting an attack. And when no attack came, he pretty much didn't have any sentries or men posted because back during that time, it was pretty much customary that if an offense wasn't taken, if an attack didn't take place first thing in the morning, there pretty much wouldn't be anything that day. Sam Houston around noon had a council of war with his officers, and they discussed having an attack later that afternoon. So around 3:30 that afternoon, Sam Houston gathered the forces and lined them up, and they slowly made their way. There was about a mile between the Texian forces and the Mexican camp. It took them about an hour, close to an hour, to make that trek across the field. Remember, they had two cannons that they were trying to get to the other side. And about 4:30, the first shots rang out. As you mentioned, 18 minutes is pretty much all it took, but for the Texian forces to overtake the Mexican camp. But the battle did last a little bit longer than that. It went on for a couple of hours. The Texians, of course, crying, "Remember Goliad," and of course, "Remember the Alamo," as they were chasing the Mexican soldiers pretty much into the marsh area. So that's why towards the east of the Mexican and Texian camps, that's where most of the Mexican soldiers were either killed or taken prisoner.
Is it true that Santa Anna had more men than the Texans army?
That is correct. The day before, on the 20th, Sam Houston and the Texians did outnumber the Mexican army, but overnight, a forced march from the Mexican troops resulted in the Mexican army having more troops arrive the morning of the battle. And so, the morning of the battle, they did have more men arrive.
Mhm. What happened to the Mexican prisoners?
The
Because they took
Mexican,
quite a few.
so the Mexican prisoners were taken. And it wasn't until the next day that Santa Anna himself was found about 8 miles from the battlefield. When he was returned and confronted Sam Houston, of course, that was the Santa Anna surrender. And it was a few days later that Santa Anna and the Mexican soldiers, I should say, Santa Anna was still a prisoner himself, but Santa Anna gave the order for the Mexican soldiers to return to San Antonio.
Oh, okay. So they were based out of San Antonio rather than more of the interior of Mexico.
Correct. They had other forces that were left behind in San Antonio. And as a matter of fact, that was the main point before the major retreat back to Mexico.
Uh-huh. Where does the origin of the Texian name come from?
Texian, I don't know if I've heard Texian, Texican, and I imagine it's somewhere between, you had the Mexico Mexican, somewhere along those lines.
Yeah, I always wondered where it came from. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, who came up with a name?
it wasn't until I started working here at the museum that I heard that. And I've always used that whenever I go out with speaking engagements or just discussing that history with some of our visitors, and I kinda like the sound of it.
Hmm. So, how is it that Sam Houston got to lead the battle?
He was, chosen, whenever they were putting the army together, he was chosen and elected to be the general for the Texian army.
Hmm. And then after that, was that when he became president?
It wasn't until till later after Texas won its independence, became a republic, and then he was reluctant at first, but at the last minute, he threw his hat into the ring and decided to run for that presidency.
Oh, great, great. Can you give us a little bit of bios of the veterans on both sides of this battle?
So one that I would love to share is Juan Seguin. He was born in San Antonio, and during the revolution, he went to Gonzales and put together a group of men to join the Texian forces, and he ended up being commander of a group of these Tejanos to pretty much rear guard for the rest of the Texian army. And then once they arrived at San Jacinto, he did command the Tejano forces during that battle.
Why would a Hispanic person living in what was it called? It wasn't called Texas yet, or was it?
It was it was Tejas, and you're probably asking why would a Tejano join the
Y-
Anglo forces?
Yeah.
And you had lots of Tejanos that weren't happy with the Mexican government. They weren't getting the representation that they thought that they should have.
Yeah.
So they really weren't happy with the Mexican government at that time. And so they decided to join forces with the other Texans, the Anglo Texans.
So, who decided that it would be really important to build a monument in remembrance?
So Jesse H. Jones was very instrumental in making sure that some type of monument was constructed to honor those Texians from 1836. You know, everyone who sacrificed so much to make Texas a republic. And so they were planning for the big centennial celebrations in 1936, and he went to the federal government and received some funding, and of course, lots of local Texans, well, Texans throughout the state, also contributed to make sure that this monument was built. And but Jesse H. Jones, he's the one who thought that it should go here and be constructed here in the Houston area. I mean, this is where the battle took place. I understand that there were some talks of maybe something like Dallas, but no, he was the one that was instrumental in getting it built here. As a matter of
Yeah,
fact,
like you said, the battle was fought here, so it made sense
correct.
to have it here.
Correct.
So,
Yes. We have a theater that we show a presentation describing the events and leading up to the battle and the battle itself. And the name of that theater is the Jesse H. Theater for Texas Studies.
mm,
So
to me, the monument is super impressive. It's very high, and it's like, well, how in the world did they get the star up there without the technology that we have now? And
that's
and
true.
the material as well that was used to build it.
Correct. So the star itself, yeah, I'll go into a few details of the star. It is 220 tons.
Wow.
It's 34 feet tall. And the construction, you're right. There were no cranes there, there was no techniques, something to aid them in building it and getting it up there. So what they did is once they had blueprints for this nine-pointed star, the reason it's a nine-pointed star is so that as you are viewing it from any angle on the ground or in the air, you can see a five-point star. And so when they made the blueprints, they decided to build a 1-inch scale model out of wood. And once they refined everything, they built a full size wooden model on the ground. As a matter of fact, we have images of that wooden model in our archives. And once they finished that up, they knew what they had to do. And everything was pretty much constructed up top. That was, of course, the last thing that was constructed. And it's a beautiful star. One fact about it that no, there are pretty much nothing is really level or perfect, but from the ground, it's amazing piece of art.
So was it pulled all the way up there with just ropes?
No, it was constructed up top piece by
Oh,
piece.
they did.
Constructed up top piece by piece.
Oh,
Yes.
cool.
Yes. As a matter of
Cool.
fact, just last year, a little over a year ago, we had a special exhibit on the construction of the monument. I believe that if you go to our website, www.sanjacinto-museum.org, we should still have a lot of those images available for you to see. And it gives you some insight on that construction process of not only the star, but the entire monument itself.
Yeah. And where did they find the fossilized stones?
So
Because that's a major point in the building as well.
that is another beautiful piece that's just perfect and just complements the monument itself. That limestone is Texas Cordova shellstone, and it is quarried outside of Austin and Burnett County. As a matter of fact, I understand that quarry is still in operation. And so you can still find those pieces of limestone. We, as a matter of fact, have a few of the pieces that were used during the original construction, and we've shaped them the Texas. And we had a gentleman that did that for us. But again, these were pieces that were originally on the monument itself. About 25 years ago, we had some renovations done, and any of the pieces that came off of the monument, we saved, and we had this gentleman carve them for us for these nice little pieces that we give away every once in a while.
Hmm. I heard that this monument was the largest or tallest masonry work in the world. Is that
Correct.
still a fact?
That is a fact. It is the tallest masonry monument in the world. You know, Washington Monument stands at 555 feet tall, and the San Jacinto Monument is 567 and a few inches. But you know, we're in Texas. Everything is bigger in Texas, and we
Of
like
course.
we brag about it. So anyone that visits, we say it's 570 feet tall.
Yeah. So how long did it take to get it built?
The construction of the monument took 3 years. They broke ground in March of 1936, and then it officially opened. They had ceremonies, opening ceremonies here on April 20th and 21st of 1939. Took 3
Oh, that
years.
must have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was, a lot of fun and I'm sure a lot of work. You have to understand that at that point in time, you know, it was the Great Depression. So
Oh, yeah.
you had lots of men that were lined up to take the place of anyone that perhaps injured themselves, or even worse, you know, if something a horrible accident happened and couldn't go back to work. And so these men were lined up, but that's just the amazing thing. No one was severely injured or lost their life during this construction.
Amazing, amazing.
Yes, yes.
So, and inside the building, you have a lot of portraits and a lot of exhibits. So, what can we see in these exhibits?
So I will give you a rundown of exactly what we have to offer in the museum. We have, as I mentioned, that 35 minute presentation. It's called Texas Forever. Details the events of the battle or the events leading up to the battle and the battle itself. We have two exhibit galleries where we display items. Some of our artifacts date back from pre-Columbian to early 20th century.
Wow.
And then we have a special exhibit. The previous one, again, was on the construction of the monument, and the current one discusses life after the battle. Pretty much goes into detail of Texas during the Republic years before joining the United States. And then we have our star or our showpiece that everyone loves to come out, and you can't not go up to the top to the observation deck where you go up 489 feet up and you can see the battlefield. You get an aerial view of the battlefield. On a beautiful day, you can make out downtown Houston and just the surrounding area. So, again, that's what a lot of people come out to see, but we try to let them know we have so much more to offer than just that beautiful view up from the observation deck.
Well, before we started talking about going up to the star to the observation deck,
Mhm.
I was going to ask you, what is the most important artifact that can be found in the museum area?
I know a very popular one is going to be Sam Houston's honor ring. And that is a ring that he pretty much wore his entire life once his mother gave it to him. He was wanting to go off and join the army during the War of 1812. And so he wasn't of age yet to join. So he had to get his mother's permission. She gave him that permission. And once he was enlisted, she gave him two gifts. She gave him a musket, and that was so that he could go off and fight. And she mentioned that while my home is always open to brave men, it is eternally shut to cowards. So he took that with him and went off to war. And then she gave him that ring. And as I mentioned, it's inscripted with honor on the inside because that would be his. She said that should be your creed, your motto for the rest of your life. And so we
How
had
old
that
was
out
he at
on
the
display.
time?
He was in his teens. He was in his teens.
Oh,
I wanna
okay.
say 17.
Yeah. Well, do y'all offer any educational programming?
As a matter of fact, we do. I'd like to mention that, the museum was chartered in 1938, and we've kind of always, partnered with someone on site where the museum association takes care of the collections inside the museum, inside the monument itself, and we've always had someone taking care of the grounds, and we are currently working very closely with the Texas Historical Commission, and since they've come in and taken over the battlefield itself, for the first time, we have been able to provide multiple interpretive programs. We've got a wonderful interpretive staff here that has created these programs that work alongside with the museum staff to hold these programs. And as I mentioned, we had been wanting to do this for years. We just never had the staff to be able to do this. And so now we're able to offer anything from join the Texian army to corn husk stalls, making corn husk stalls, learning how to churn butter, ammo of the Texas Revolution, just so many different programs that we offer, not only every week, but throughout the month and year. And one thing that I do have to mention is that thanks to a wonderful grant from the Hammond Foundation, we're able to provide every first Saturday of the month, we have a family day. And so children get in free with a paid adult admission. And on those particular days, we have a different program available. We have programs available throughout the month, but that's our big one where we like to see the kids come in and take advantage of that free admission.
I know that you recently had a reenactment event. Will you be having one of those again anytime soon?
Correct. The San Jacinto celebration and reenactment will be, of course, it's always held around the day of the battle, which was April 21st. So next year, 2024, it's going to fall, that Saturday will fall on April 20th. So we invite everyone to come out. It's a wonderful event. Again, we not only do we have the reenactment, we do it 2 times a day now. We used to do one major one in the afternoon, and that would get a little hectic because everyone would try to get in at the same time. Unfortunately, some people would get stuck in traffic. So now we offer it twice a day. We do one in the morning and then one in the afternoon so that if you do see it in the morning, you're taken care of. And then that allows for others to see the afternoon one. But not only
Well,
do we
I'm
have
gonna
the
make sure that's on my calendar.
yes, yes, definitely. What's wonderful about that is that we have now kind of a timeline of the Texas Revolution where we have the different sites come out and volunteer their time to pretty much tell you the significance of each site from Gonzales, to San Felipe, Goliad, the Alamo, and of course here at San Jacinto. And so we always appreciate those wonderful folks that come and volunteer their time
Mhm,
between employees of THC or those sites, the reenactors themselves. We can't put this celebration on without their support. So we really appreciate everything that they do for us. And then, of
mhm,
course, you've got your typical. We've got food vendors. We've got other vendors out here. And it's just a wonderful event for the entire
mhm.
family to come and enjoy.
And you also ask for volunteers, right?
That is correct. That is correct. Again, we can't put on any of these events without the help of the volunteers. The site staff that we have, there are roughly 23 of us on site. This is a 1,300-acre site.
It's
So
huge.
it's huge. It's huge. And so we really can't put on these events without the support of these wonderful volunteers. As a matter of fact, another thing that we were able to start once we've got this collaboration with the Texas Historical Commission and the San Jacinto Museum and Battlefield Association is that we were able to start a docent program. So a couple of times a year, we put on a training program so that anyone who wants to come out and volunteer to be a docent, please look that up on our website for those dates. We should have some coming up next year. We already had 2 for this year. And if that's something that you're not interested in, of course, we have the different events that you can volunteer for, as well as everyday volunteers. We have a research library, and we always have different projects that we're working on. If books are what you're interested in, sign up to help us out with those projects up there as well.
Yeah, and we can support in a lot of different ways by becoming a member
That is
and
correct.
and donations, right?
Donations, yes. As a matter of fact, for from now until the end of the year, we have a special going on with our membership. All memberships, every levels are going to be 50% off. So that entitles you to visit the museum for free for an entire year. We have individual levels, we have dual levels, we have family levels. So you can come out the entire year, enjoy your membership. You get discounted tickets to certain events that we may have. We really don't have too many where we charge a separate ticket for, but for those particular ones, you'll get a discount. One of those events that I have to mention is a lecture series. Last year, we started this lecture series where we have different scholars come in and discuss anything from the Texas Revolution to history of Houston, other parts of Texas history. And so this is a wonderful event that we have. Usually, this is an evening event, and we have about a 1 hour presentation followed by a Q&A session. And then we have a small reception afterwards where we have light finger foods and
Yeah.
refreshments.
Texas is a pretty large state, so it's got a lot of history,
Oh, it certainly does.
amazing history.
Yes, yes. As a matter of fact, when people come in and maybe ask for a book in the gift shop about Texas history, it's a little bit, we have to explain, well, what in particular are you looking for? Because when it comes to Texas history, there is just so much out there. It is just
Right,
so huge.
right.
The San Jacinto Museum and Monument is located at One Monument Circle in LaPorte, Texas, 77571. Their phone number is 281-479-2421. Their website is sanjacinto-museum.org.
Well, David, thank you so much for being here on the show and for giving us all this historical information and all the fun stuff that happens at the monument. And can't wait to visit again because I love it. It's beautiful. And again, I like history, so there's a lot of history there. But thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
And yeah. And again, what was your website address?
So the website is www.sanjacinto-museum.org. You can go to that website. As a matter of fact, it is a brand new website. We just upgraded it within the past couple of months. So go on there, enjoy it. We've got everything from the history of the battle. We've got the history of the construction of the monument itself. You can do research from there. You can sign up to do that. And I just have to mention that because of another wonderful grant that we received, we have lots of school groups that come out, but we also have a special grant. We have funding to allow Title I schools to visit the museum completely free of charge. So you can go online, go to our website for those teachers that are out there, or even, well, those teachers that want to go out and look for different field trips. Consider us. You can visit us free of charge. You can go online and make those reservations. If you need to, if you need further assistance, you can reach us at 281-479-2431. And I just want to reiterate that, between the visitors coming out and the memberships, that all makes it possible for us to continue to share, to exhibit, to interpret the story of the Battle of San Jacinto, which is, of course, the most significant story in the Texas Revolution.
An incredible story. So if it's been a while since, you've visited the historical site or are new to Houston, you should take the time to go and visit. It's a beautiful area, a beautiful building, and certainly a very important place for Texas. So I would like to thank you all as well for being with me for this edition of Spotlight Houston. And remember, if you have any comments or suggestions, please get in touch.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Spotlight Houston, a production of Story Zone Media.